The handstand. Everyone knows what it is, but not many can actually do one or actually know how to train specifically to do a proper handstand, a freestanding handstand. So in my calisthenics experience, I find that the handstand is actually more of a technique skill, not a strength skill. Sure, it does set the base and open up possibilities to train for harder strength skills like the handstand push-up or the 90-degree handstand push-up, but I feel that the handstand itself doesn't actually require a lot of baseline strength. There is definitely some strength required and conditioning, of course, to learn the handstand, but there's loads of other sources to learn the exercises and the progressions. So in this video, I'll just be focusing on the part where most people have trouble with, which is the technical part of the handstand, or the balancing part and the alignment. So most people have the impression that in a handstand we just plant our hands flat on the floor like a tree and we just somehow balance just like that, just like standing on our feet. But that's actually inaccurate, because if you look at the weight distribution of our hands compared to our feet, naturally when we do a handstand, most of our weight will be distributed towards the end of our palm. So it's actually quite intuitive because we do the same with our feet, but where all our weight is distributed on the heel of our feet. However, compared to our feet, our hands don't exactly have that extra tuberosity here, so it's a lot harder to balance. So the right way to balance is actually by using our fingers to make adjustments, so you can maintain the weight distribution into our fingers and not our palms. So I like to think of it as a imaginary small box, alright? So within this box, our wrist angle cannot exceed out of that box, alright? That imaginary box. So if our wrist angle is too large, most of our weight is going to be distributed on the lower end of our palm, which will cause us to tip over backwards and fall back on our feet, as stated earlier. Whereas if our wrist angle is too small, too much weight is going to be distributed on our fingers, which will cause us to tip over forward and fall on our back. Yeah. So the only way we can actually maintain our wrist position and in that little imaginary box is actually by using our fingers to adjust our wrist angle. So instead of laying our fingers flat on the ground as one would think in a handstand, instead you want to spread out your fingers and slightly flex them like a clawed position and place it on the ground. So in the handstand, when you feel yourself tipping over forward or the wrist angle is getting smaller, you press with your fingers or you flex your fingers, almost like you're trying to claw up the ground, right? And that is actually going to be pushing your wrist position backwards. So when your wrist position gets back into that little window we discussed about earlier, you release the pressure on your fingers and lean back into your fingers to avoid your wrist angle from increasing too much that it exceeds that little box and you fall back on your feet. Okay? So the basic concept in the handstand is when you feel that you're tipping over forwards, which is the direction of falling on your back, you want to press hard into the ground. So that is going to stop your body from tipping over forwards and instead tip backwards. And once you're aligned in that straight handstand again, you want to stop pressing with your fingers and lean back with your fingers. And you feel yourself tipping over back forwards, you feel yourself tipping over forwards again. So basically, the handstand isn't just planting your hands flat on the floor and being still. It's a bunch of micro movements to maintain your balance. So it's kind of like life, you know, to keep your balance, you gotta keep moving. So you can actually test this out yourself on the floor. Just with the same wrist position, you lean into your fingers just like in the handstand. So if you press with your fingers, you're going to find that your wrist position is going to be moving backwards. So essentially, it's a balance of pressing with your fingers and releasing and leaning into your fingers to maintain yourself in that straight line. So the second part of the handstand technique is the alignment, because we want to be keeping the handstand straight and not curved like a banana handstand. So we need to have some cues in our mind to contract some muscles to keep our body straight and aligned and tight, so that we'll be in a straight line once we're in that handstand. So first, you're going to want to extend your shoulders up, and you want to contract your glutes and your core. So once you do that, you notice how your body immediately gets aligned into a straight line, okay? And next, you want to keep your legs together and point your toes and look down on the ground. So that is the cues you're going to be wanting to practice when you're upside down in that handstand. So essentially that's it. It is going to take some practice, so I recommend practicing the finger movements and the alignment against the wall to make sure that your handstand is first aligned and straight before you take your handstand to doing it without a wall, to be doing a free standing handstand. So this may sound a bit confusing, the mechanics of the finger pressing, but keep practicing and soon you'll understand for yourself the actual mechanics of finger pressing and alignment in the handstand. So for those using paralletes, it's actually the same concept as balancing the handstand on the floor, but instead of pressing and releasing with your fingers, with paralletes you want to be abducting and adducting your wrists in a neutral position. So when using paralletes, you want to grip the paralletes hard, and when you feel yourself falling over forwards, you immediately adduct your wrist to tip over backwards, similar as to pressing your fingers when you do the handstand on the ground. But the difference is, with paralletes, your wrist is in a neutral position. So when you feel yourself falling over backwards again, you can also abduct your wrist to tip your body forwards. So again, the handstand isn't just passively planting your hands on the ground, it's a lot of active engagement and adjustments to maintain that straight line. Okay, so essentially that is the whole technique of the handstand. So as always in calisthenics, you want to be taking the progress slow and try not to rush the learning process to make sure that your body is conditioned enough for exercise to prevent any injuries. For me, it took me about 6 months to learn the handstand because I was actually learning all these finger pressing mechanisms and paralletes, how to balance the paralletes from scratch. So, but honestly, if I knew these cues and techniques from the beginning, I think I would have achieved it in about a few weeks. So yeah, if you made it this far and managed to achieve the handstand, leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this, and leave a comment as to what kind of videos you want to see on this channel, like more tutorials, more calisthenics tutorials, more workout motivational videos, or just normal vlogs of my daily routines as a medical student, or the workout routines that I do. Alright? Peace.